Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap, and we are here today to create a total of 12 cards with the Cottage Garden Card Kit. During this workshop, we will sort and trim the papers, then score them and set ourselves up with success to make a dozen cards. Let's get started. I took my cottage garden materials out of the box. I've printed my instructions. Doing this is optional. You can always just follow along with me. But for right now, let's set aside all the ribbon and embellishments so we just are holding the papers. And I want to sort the paper into the order that we're going to be using it. So let's get started with that. I like to hold the paper upright while I'm sorting so that I can see everything easily. And I want you to go ahead and find one sheet of the dark green, and just to compare, here is the light green, so there is a difference, and if you're curious, just compare the two. And then next up, I want you to take one sheet of pink, so that was one dark green to start, and then one pink, then a light green, and finally a yellow. Next up, grab another light green, and then a yellow, dark green, pink, the two prints, we're going to put those face down, and then you have some printed Cutaparts. Find the one that has the largest set of objects on it, and then face down, and then you have a smaller objects on this sheet. Put that face down as well. And then take the entire pile and turn it back upright again, where we started with that dark green. I typically like to keep my papers to my left of my trimmer base, and then my instructions on the right. And then I like to stay organized with my Accordion Pocket File. This is a unit that has 4 pockets, one for each set of cards, plus a bonus pocket. If we have any scraps or leftovers, we can put them in pocket D. So we're making 3 sets of cards, and then the lip of this sits underneath my trimmer base. The advantage to this is that it uses a lot less space, and sometimes our workspace is really at a premium. I'll take the dark green paper on the top of my pile and determine the grain direction of the paper. If that's new to you, just simply hold it by an edge here and give it a little wiggle and listen to it, and then rotate. And that's very quiet, isn't it? And it's a little bit more floppy. So I want to place this in my trimmer so the paper bends most easily from top to bottom, okay? And that's indicated by an arrow in your instruction diagram. There's a little arrow right there, so just kind of watch for that if you are in doubt. And we also are going to grab the pink and do the same little test. This is stiff and noisy. That's floppy and quiet. I want it dipping in that direction, and we'll trim these together. If you don't feel comfortable with that, totally okay. You can trim one at a time and just kind of rewind back to this spot. Let's cut this at 11 1/4 with both pieces neatly together. Make sure your paper is resting along the top ridge of your trimmer base. Find that 11 1/4 by finding first the whole number of 11 and then go to the left 1 column. Then I always stabilize, especially when I'm using 2 sheets of paper like this, before you cut. And then after you cut, don't move the little paper that fell to the right. Now we're going to slide over to the 7-inch mark, same sheet, and trim, and then rotate the paper so it's horizontal and trim at 10. These pieces can be set aside. We're going to score them a little later. And the smaller rectangle that fell, place it in pocket C. And then you have this larger piece here. We're going to trim these together at 6 inches. And place them both, both the ones in the trimmer base, the ones that fell, they all go in B. And then this strip here is not used. I'll just add it to the D pocket. And if I decide later, I can use it. Now let's take a light green and do the little grain direction test. Once again, I want it bending easily in this direction from top to bottom. And I'll repeat that with the yellow too, from top to bottom. And this time we're going to cut at 11, the whole number 11, 7, rotate and cut at 10. All right, set this aside to be scored in a minute, and then the rectangle goes in pocket C. You have this larger piece I want you to trim at 10. and 5. All 4 of these pieces can go in pocket A. And then you have a little rectangle here. We're actually going to trim this at 2 inches. And place these 4 squares that you just made in pocket A. And then take this remaining strip and we'll trim this one at 9.5. This goes in pocket A. And then these 2 little pieces are scraps that you can throw into pocket D if you wish. Next, we'll take another sheet of light green and ensure that it bends easily top to bottom. All these green directions are the same, but that's not a rule. It's just how it turned out in this particular card set. And let's cut these at the yellow and the light green at 9 and 4.5. Rotate this 4.5 by 12 and trim it at 9.25. So that's 9 plus 1 column to the left. And set this aside to be scored. And the piece that fell here, that goes in pocket C. I'm going to take the next pair of pieces and trim those also at 9.25. Set this aside to be scored. The piece that fell, pocket C once again. And then you have this other strip here. It's a 3 by 12. We'll cut it at 6. All of these pieces, they're all the same size. Set them aside to be scored, and we're moving on to the dark green. Once again, our green direction goes in so it bends most easily from top to bottom, and the same is true for the pink. Yes, top to bottom for that bendy. All right, let's trim this at 11. And 5.5. Rotate the 5.5 and trim at 11.75. And set this aside to be scored. You do have these really skinny guys that fell. We'll put those in D because we didn't use them. Or you could put them in the dispose pile. Then we'll trim the other strip also at 11.75. Set this aside to be scored. You do have the little tiny strips once again as a scrap. And then this 1-inch piece, we're just going to trim this at 9.5. And pop the long piece in pocket A. And 2 more little scraps I'm going to throw into D. Now we're at the print. And we're going to trim both of these prints at the same exact time. Let's begin with them stacked together at 11.5. And then we'll slide down to 8.25. And 4. So if they get a little out of whack, just realign everything. 4 is your next cut here. Now rotate the 4-inch strips and trim them horizontally together at 6. You just made 4 panels that are the same for pocket C, Charlie. Then you have 2 more strips that are the same. These are 4.25 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11, 8.25, 5.5, and 2.75. You just made a whole bunch of panels, 8 of them to be exact total. They are all the same size and go into pocket B. There is a little 1-inch scrap that fell from the end. I'll place that in D. And then this next step is just going to be super important, so follow along with me carefully. I'm going to take these 2 larger strips that remain. We'll cut at 10 and 5. All right, this next step, super duper, super important. In my diagram that I have in my instructions, there is a line on this particular piece that has us cutting it from the upper right corner down to the lower left corner. Upper right to lower left. So I'm going to line up my paper so that it rests against the edge of my outside edge of my silver blade here. Upper right to lower left. Okay, so I just made a set of triangles from the upper right to the lower left. As I said, very important. Now, I have another set of panels. This one I'm going to trim from the upper left to the lower right. Upper left to lower right. If you fail to do this, later on you're going to discover why, because you're going to have to use the plain side in order to make it work, okay? So do you see the difference here? This should match what you saw in your instructions as far as what was indicated. Upper left to lower right. I'm sorry, upper right to lower left, upper left to lower right. Then all of these panels can be placed in pocket A. You do have some scraps here I'll throw into D, along with this little strip here that goes in D as well. For the Cutaparts, there are instructions on the perimeter of the sheet that indicate you need to remove some of the paper before we start trimming here. So there's a little tiny hash mark in the corner, and it says remove paper outside corner cutting guides. So sometimes when I trim off the first edge, I can't see the bottom edge of my stainless steel blade. So when I make my first cut, I don't try to go right to the line. I go a little shy of that mark. And then when I rotate the paper, I can now see that blade down here in the lower corner, up here, and I can line up the mark with the edge of the blade. We'll rotate again. Line up our marks, get sets, rotate for this edge, and now I can actually look at the 12 on my left, and sure enough it lines up really nice. And then this is going to be the cleanup cut, that final edge where I started here. And that leaves me with just some really tiny little pieces that fell from the end of my trimmer. I'm going to throw those out, and then this is how I want the piece in the trimmer, where it says congratulations. That'll be right side up on your left. If I line this up at 9.5 inches, you'll see that the blade's going to go right between all the pieces of art. So 9.5 is my first number, and then 4 3/4. Rotate and trim at 9 1/4, 6 1/2, 3 3/4. This first piece, pocket A. The remaining 3 pieces are the same size for pocket B. And then we have another strip. We get to do those same numbers. This cute little butterfly should be on your left here. So let's cut at 9 1/4, 6 1/2, and 3 3/4. This piece, once again, pocket A, and the remaining that are the same size, pocket B. This last strip, nice and easy, we'll cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. All 3 of these pieces go in pocket C. I'll pick up the remaining sheet and then just do a cut shy of the line to get things started. And when I rotate, now I can see a lot better, and I can line things up nicely. Just keep rotating until all the edges are clear, and you can pause the video and take as much time as you need for this step. Once you're done, clear away your little scraps. And let's start with sending healing hugs. That should be in the upper right corner. If you find the measurement of 9 1/2, you'll see that the blade is going to go between the pieces of art. Then slide all the way down to 4 3/4. Rotate and cut at 9 3/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. The 2 larger pieces find their friends in pocket A, and then the 2 skinny ones go in C. On this next piece, we're going to make sure the word pull is on the lower right corner. and cut at 10.5, 9, 7.25, 5.5, 2.75. The two larger pieces, pocket B, Bravo. And then now we have some strips. I'm just gonna pick them all up and then do some more trimming. So this says happy birthday. The narrow object should be on your right. We'll cut at 3.5. And when you make these smaller cuts, it's totally okay. Find 1.75. Just use your index finger to push down. And now you have your little sentiment here. 2 happy birthdays for pocket A. The little piece that fell, C. Same thing again here. The happy birthdays should be on your left. So we'll cut at 3.5 and 1.75. Gather up the 2 happy birthdays for pocket A, and we just have an extra piece for C. Now this one, the mushrooms will be on your right, and we'll cut at 3 and 1.5. The piece that says pull, both of those, put them aside to be scored, and then this will go in pocket C, the little mushroom image. And then finally, with the daisies on the right, we'll cut at 3 and 1.5. The 2 pieces that say pull, set them aside to be scored. Daisies go in pocket C. Not so hard. It maybe looked harder than what it really was, right? There's a circle of caring all around you that goes on your right. We'll trim at 8.5 and 4.25. These two, actually all 3 of these pieces go in pocket C. And that, my friends, is the end of all of your trimming. Isn't that cool? Well, I'm gonna amend that. That is almost the end of all our trimming. We have a few more cuts to make, but no big deal. I'm gonna lock my trimmer blade for now, set that aside, make sure I lay my organizer on its back if you're using one, and grab your ScorPal. Remember earlier we had the pile of things we set aside? I got my ScorPal here, and I'm also going to be using this little ergonomic ball tip stylus. I prefer it to the plastic bone folder that came with the ScorPal. And these little guys, if we place them in the ScorPal, I want a score line that kind of goes right through the middle. We're talking 3/4 of an inch here is going to be your line if you have it lined up nicely in the corner. So score at 3/4 of an inch on all 4 of these. And these can go right into pocket A. So we'll be filing the pieces as we go along. And then I have this 11.75 inch piece of pink. And it's, let's see, 5.5 inches tall. So make sure it's in and tucked in on the left, upper left corner of your ScorPal. That's because it is a little shy of the 12. And I want you to score this one at 3.75 and 8. Now we're gonna do that 3 more times. So the next piece in my pile is this dark green, and the number was 3.75 and 8. And we have another light pink to score at 3.75 and 8. And we have another dark green to score at 3.75 and 8. Okay, all of these pieces need to be trimmed, so I'm going to set them aside for now. And next up I have this little flag size piece. It's 3 by 6. We're going to score it horizontally at 5. Just to give us a little 1 inch tab. You repeat that for the other light green, the yellow, the light green. Again, all of these scored horizontally at 5, and you can place them in pocket B. Next, we have an odd size piece. This is 4.5 by 9.25. We'll score horizontally at 6.25. Repeat that for all 4 pieces. At 6.25, there'll be 2 light green and 2 yellow. 6.25, and all of these go in pocket B, Bravo. Next up, we have a 7 by 10. So the 10 inch side should be right in the upper right corner here. You'll see the 7 down here. So we're scoring horizontally at 5. And you'll have 1 of each color. 5 5, and 5. Okay, all of these go into pocket C. And we're done scoring. Let's grab that trimmer one more time. Remember these longer pieces I had you set them aside. They're scored twice. And now we're going to trim them. Maybe it's a little easier to see if you have the bump of the score line facing up. I'm going to trim from the bump of the score line down to the outer corner. So find that bump is right there. Outer corner is right there. And then I'm just going to flip it, I guess, so I can make sure that you understand. It's got to be from the top edge where you started before down to the bottom corner again to make a trapezoid shape. Okay, that's what we're after. So let's just do that again. So I could maybe do it 2 at a time, but I'll just do these individual. And then you got to do the same top to bottom on the other side. Okay, I'm going to do these together because the score lines should be matching. From the top of the score down to the outside corner. And then I'll flip it to do the other side. Top of the score to the tip of the lower corner. And we have a trapezoid. Very good. I'm going to put the trimmer away. And now I'm left with all the trapezoids. Those are used in card set A. And then all of the triangles are used in card set C, waste not, want not. Now what's impressive, and I really want to show you this right now, is that if I emptied pocket D from all those sheets of paper, this is the only scrap you'll have, okay? Isn't that cool? So I'm going to set those scraps aside and we're going to get started by emptying pocket A. You can also turn to page 3 in your instructions or scroll to page 3, however you're looking at them, and that will be a nice visual guide for you to follow along with as well. Okay, so empty pocket A. I have a bunch of stuff in there, and as is our routine, I think maybe we'll start out by folding our card bases just so that they're kind of a little bit of a smaller, more compact size. When you do fold them, you're going to be making a little angled pocket, and when you find the score line of the card, make sure that you're burying the bump of the score line in the inside of that fold. I'm going to put some paper behind me just so that we have a little more contrast with the table. So here's my bump. Make sure this is level right here. And then I'm going to turn it and bury the other. Here we have a bump of the score line always on the inside of the fold, and a great way to remember that if you're new around here, I say it all the time, but if you're new, just remember, bury the bump, because it's really the opposite of what a lot of people think. Okay, so now I have my 4 card bases. Let's take the pink and then the dark green, the pink and the dark green, and start dealing out all the pieces that are going to be used to complete these cards. And then we'll make our little sample. So we're going to add a light green panel here, yellow, light green, yellow. And we'll add a sentiment. Just a little reminder, you are loved. We'll put those top to bottom here. And then I'm grateful for the gift of you in my life. Those will be these 2. I have the little pull tabs. We'll add a pull tab to each one. And we do have some little squares. Let's add a light green square here. Oh, and here. And then how about a yellow here and here? No rhyme or reason. And then we have our sentiments. These 2 will be happy birthday. And then I guess these 2 are happy birthday also. They're all 4 are happy birthday. How cool. Okay, now remember we had the triangles. So we have the triangle for the right side of our pocket and a triangle for the left side. And if you did it the way I showed you, you should have each. If you didn't do the way I showed you, you're going to have either 2 lefts or 2 rights for each card. And ask me how I know this, because that very thing happened to me. And lastly, we have a belly band for each card. I'm going to go yellow, pink, dark green, and light green. In your kit, you received a series of 12 envelopes. Grab the smallest set of 4 envelopes, and I'm going to take the contents of the 4th pile we made and slide them all into the envelope. Now later on, when you come back, you can follow along with the sample we're making together and recreate what we did. And if you forget anything, just watch the video again. I've got the chapters marked for you so you can easily follow along. Now let's take this one and make our card. And I'm going to grab some adhesive. Probably use my bookbinding glue as well. I keep my bookbinding glue in a little needle-tipped applicator inside my little sand-filled dispenser. It's really handy there. And I'm just gonna fold this pull tab in half and burnish it. So I'm just gonna add some glue to my little pull tab here. And when I add it, I'm gonna do it so that the text is just lined up at the top of so the bottom of the word pull is lined up with the edge of my card. You could always use the envelope itself just to make sure, but it's gonna sink, it's gonna be a little taller because it's gonna have to go inside your pocket. So just be mindful of that. And then I'll take my regular ATG gun and apply some of that adhesive to the sentiment here and get that all set to go. Okay, all kinds of fun things happening here. We're gonna add our triangles to the panels of our card. So I kind of like to go in with my bookbinding glue again, just so that I can get the points of the triangular tips so that they don't, pop up. All right, add it to the left side of the pocket and open. And then I'll add this panel of the text weight paper to the right. And then you can decide which pocket you want on the top. It really doesn't matter. Like if there's some artwork you prefer, one or the other, you can go that route. Or if the way that the triangles are lining up, you can just take whatever you prefer. And I'm gonna add really close to the edge, a line of glue here. And then here I want this pocket to stick on top. So now I will have a pocket, and then we're able to slide our sentiment inside the pocket. And then again, this, we just want to make sure that this is going to fit inside the envelope. That's the idea there. Okay, now we have the band, and what I like to do here is just line up the band so it's kind of at the center where the pocket crisscrosses, and then crease it to wrap its way around. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of belly bands. I don't like sliding them on and off. So what I'm gonna do here is make it a permanent band. And now notice how this is kind of overlapping. I'm gonna switch it back so that where I started is on the top. That way my seam for the band is right in the middle. It's kind of a little detail thing. And I'm gonna open up the left side there, put a little glue on this end while it's flat, and a little glue on this end while it's open. And that way when I close it again, both seams are going to be sealed beautifully. Okay, then here we have our sweet happy birthday, and this is a little detail. You may not love this detail, you may adore this detail. So I'll cut a length of this ribbon with a really, really steep point. And in the embellishment for this kit, we gave you a little silver buckle here. And I'm gonna thread the really pointy tip of the ribbon through the buckle on one side and then out the other. This is the cutest little thing ever. It just is such a nice detail, but it's not gonna add any bulk to your card that will make it difficult for mailing, which I'm always trying to be aware of. It's so sweet, I can't even. Oh, it's so cute. Okay. Now, before I mat the square, just gonna place it there, loop around to the back. Oh, how handy that I have my tape dispenser sitting right here. And then I will add glue to this and add it to my this point. I am just going to add adhesive just to the majority of it so that I can keep it on. I just don't want the belly band to move. It's not even necessary. It's not holding anything in place. It's more of a decorative element, which is kind of what I like about this card. So here I have my sweet little pocket card. Wasn't that easy? Then you'll make several more. So here is another one with the purple butterfly in there. I'm grateful for the gift of you in my life. How sweet are these? And just add your little belt buckle there to the front of each card, and you'll have a set of 4 cards that I promise won't last long in your stash. At this point, you can take your remaining cards and then take the envelope and your sample that you made. Just put these all together, pause the video, and finish assembly right now if you want. Or you can just set these aside and move on with me, and maybe at another time when you maybe are hanging around with friends at a crop and you want to finish assembling these cards, you can do that, or whatever you want. The nice part is you have a sample and 3 more cards you can make just like it. Now let's empty pocket B and get ready for our next set of cards. Okay, here is pocket B. A lot of stuff in there. Not too bad. And I guess I'll quick fold these card bases with you. Again, what's our word? What's the mantra? Bury the bump. Feel free to write that in the comments if you like. In fact, if you're watching and you're just enjoying what you're making and enjoying the process, let me know in the comments. I always do love to hear from you. And then we have the little 3x6s, and those have a little tab on them as well. So as long as I'm here doing this, might as well. Okay. And let's make our little deal. I'll turn to page 4 of my instructions so that I can see what gets what. So I'm going to take the 2 yellows and lay them next to each other, and then the 2 green. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one is going to receive a panel, so I'll go dark green. That kind of goes on the inside. Dark green. And then pink on these. Let's take our little flag. I would go light green, yellow, and yellow. You'll have, remember we made the set of 8 of these. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lastly, we have some sentiments. We'll go with sincere sympathy on the top 2, and then life changes year to year on this one, and then success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in, day out. For the inside, may the love of caring friends soften your sadness. Here we'll do a happy anniversary, and then here we'll do congratulations. It's that time of year, isn't it, when we start congratulating our graduates. Taking the medium-sized envelopes that came in your kit, we'll slide the contents of cards 4, 3, and 2, and then that's just a copy job, right? So I'm going to set these aside, and let's do our single card together. I'm going to have you do something a little weird and add the inner sentiment to this panel first, and it's going to be 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of my card. So let's take some adhesive, and I'm using my grid ruler. So right now it's on the 0 setting. I'm going to go 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. And then I'm also going to add it about 1/8 of an inch rather from the right edge of the card. It seems weird, but it's up 3/4 of an inch in 1/4 of an inch. Now this piece, that makes this easy. You just add it so it covers the sentiment. See, it just covers it. Turn the card over, flip up that little tab, and then hook it back on to the card. Then take your other card base that has the wing going out to the left, open it. We're going to put adhesive on the back of this panel so that the other piece wings out to the right. And then we can add with sincere sympathy to this one. Now we still have these two lovely panels. I'll put adhesive on these. And I'm going to put one on the inside of this flap. And I'll put one on the outside of the flap. And it's going to just sit like this. Isn't that sweet? Now I did something fun with the ribbon and the little embellishment here. So I'm going to start out by making a loop that kind of meets to form a tip. And then I'm going to just bend it back to make another tip. And if you want, you could, just to give you a little helper, if you have a nice stapler, this is the tiny attacher. I'm just going to give that a little staple so I don't have to hold it all. Then I'm going to make another one. And then I'm going to come back. This is how a traditional bow is made, even for your packages, your gifts. I almost have a little butterfly formed here. So then I'll just staple it so that stays in place in the middle, and then I can cut that little end, that little excess there. Okay, and then see how that sits right on top of there? So, so sweet. And that can be placed right there. Okay, so I'm gonna add some adhesive to this. Make sure it's attached to my ribbon. And I'm just going to be aware kind of how I add my adhesive. Isn't that darling? What a beautiful card. So you will make 4 of those. I made another one with the yellow ribbon on the sympathy card, and then the others I did with the pink ribbon. So the pink ribbon, I just made 1 loop instead of 2. It's totally your call as the designer what you would like to use, but I just think it's a really adorable embellishment. At this point, you can pair up your sample that you made with the other 3 envelopes, and we're getting ready to move on to set C. So now you can empty pocket C and turn to page 5 of your instructions for our final set of cards. Okay, what do we have in here? We'll empty that out completely. There's a lot of parts and pieces. And right out of the gates, we'll just take our card bases. Make sure you line up those corners before you, what are you gonna do? Bury the bump. Make sure everything lines up. I never really trust a score line implicitly. I always just make sure the corners are good before I make the final crease. And I do like to use a bone folder. This is my new favorite bone folder. I absolutely love the shape of it. It just works so well. I'm going to go with a dark green vertical and then a pink vertical, and then a light green and a yellow horizontal. All right, what else can we distribute? Let's do some triangles. Now, you don't have to use the same color of triangle. You could alternate, but I'm going to go with pink. And they just kind of get added like so. And then dark green here. So I'm utilizing the scraps. And then we'll go with dark green here and then pink here. After that, we're going to add, let's see if these are horizontal. Let's look good there. And then the print here. Then we have another colored panel. So we use a yellow and a light green, a yellow and a light green. For sentiments, the vertical sentiment here is going to be sending healing hugs on both of these cards here. And then the horizontal one will be all the happy, all for you. On the inside, each card's going to get a strip. So light green, yellow, pink, and dark green. Each one will get a sentiment. We'll add there is a circle of caring all around you to the vertical cards, and that a great person deserves a great birthday. So these little extra pieces were from the Cutaparts, and I just decided to use them. So there are ones that look a little more vertical. Those will go with the top 2 cards. And then you've got some daisies and mushrooms that are more horizontal. I added those to the horizontal cards. Finally, we still have our envelopes, our largest A7s. And again, I'll slide. Notice how I slide it in vertically into the horizontal envelope just so that it's easy. And at a glance, you can kind of see that you got some work to do on these cards, right? Okay, we are near the finish line of our time together. All right, so here we go. I experimented quite a bit with where to put the triangular shapes. And once again, I do like to have my ruler handy. And I had liked it so that I had a smaller reveal of the shape rather than a larger one. And that was just my personal preference. So what that tells me is I'm going to add my bookbinding glue to the triangle. And I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch from the edge. So that's 3 cubes on my ruler, both from the left edge of the card and from the bottom edge. So 1, 2, 3. I love to use my ruler to make sure things are level. Then I'll just rotate and then repeat to add the other corner, but I have to remember to turn the card right side up again. But yes, 3/8 of an inch seemed to work really well. So I'm not sure if I had it on camera on that last one. So I've got 3 cubes. It doesn't matter what number I'm on, just the cubes. 1, 2, 3. And if I use the ruler, then I know things are lined up nicely. Okay, here I am back right side up. And when I add this, you'll see how nicely it all plays together. So I'll use just my regular adhesive to add my text weight panel. And the reveal can be should be the same on all the sides because we measured, right? We have the sentiment, sending healing hugs. I'm going to nest that. And at this point, we're going to do a little repeat. So if you didn't see it before, I'm going to trim off some of this nice narrow green ribbon with a really steep point. And I'll grab my little silver mini buckle, the cutest embellishment ever for a greeting card. And you enter in one side of the buckle, exit the other. If you want this a little off-centered, you can just decide where that buckle goes. I liked it a little off-center here, just because. There's so many ways you could use these too. You could like do a crisscross. We got plenty of ribbon for you in this kit. Okay. Then I'll add adhesive. And I'm going to add this centered and 1 1/8 of an inch from the edge of my card. It's a little bit of a weird measurement. 1 inch plus another cube on the ruler, and then centered top to bottom. That puts me at 2 1/4 on either side of the center. Okay, now for the inside, I'll take this strip here, and I'm gonna maybe just go like a 1/2 inch from the edge. And I do like to use my ruler for this as well because it's just so easy to go up or downhill on these larger pieces like this. Okay, and then there is a circle of caring all around you. I'm just gonna eyeball that. And then add a little bit of this down maybe at the bottom here. That's kind of sweet. Now, the very last thing here is we've got this gigantic yard of all these beautiful pieces. And you know what you can do, you'll have enough probably, would be to even run a line of them onto the inside of the card. How sweet would that be? But I got even more chintzy with them because I just love these. I'm going to take scissors, fabric scissors to be exact, and I'm going to trim off a row, or a set of 3 rather, 3 of these cute little flowers, and I can add them anywhere I like, as many as I'd like. These are going to go a long way. I liked to add one right behind the buckle. Oh, so cute. Look at that. and then one kind of above it. And I did this last, even after I added the inside sentiment so that I could just set it aside to dry. That is your final card. So that was the dark green one that we did together. And you can see some different styles. Like this one, I only had 1/4 of an inch or 2 cubes, and then it was another 1/4 of an inch between that and the card panel. And I like to have my reveals vary a little bit. Once again, I added the ribbon here along with the daisy. I added daisies on the inside here too. So that's something that you can do with the plentiful amount that you have. Here, this again was an 1/8 of an inch reveal. Didn't add any daisies there, but I could. And then here is the final. Oh, just so sweet, right? Okay, that was your final card. Again, you have 3 more to make just like it. You can either do that right now or you can do it later. Either way, make sure you do it. If you liked this cottage garden collection, there is a page kit available also, and it makes 8 pages and the same kind of a framework where we sort the papers, we trim them, and then put them onto our pages and then stick everything down. You'll bring your pictures and your memories to those completed pages, and if you've never tried scrapbooking that way, you are going to love it. So check out the Cottage Garden page kit. Also, if you're not a member of Club Scrap, remember that anyone can shop, but members do always save, and you save $8 on kits. So it's a great way to make scrapbooking or card making very affordable. And last but not least, before you go, make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any other fun workshops or kit announcements or other really fun ideas. So again, I'm Trisha Morris from Club Scrap. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.